What's up everyone? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, my name is Edward Lee. I'm a filmmaker and photographer based in Seattle, Washington, and this channel is all about tech, lifestyle, and productivity. Now, I have been doing desk setup videos for like 2 years now, but I recently just changed my entire kind of personal workstation, and I want to share with you guys what I changed and how I kind of got rid of some stuff to make it a little bit more functional, but still clean and minimal. So let's get right into it. So for structure, I've broken this video down into 5 major sections. First, we're gonna go over the core or the main foundation of the setup. Second, we're gonna go over the tech or all the elements that I'm using to power the setup and stay productive. Third, we'll go over organization because organization is such a key part of a productive workspace in my opinion. Next, we're gonna go over lighting because lighting is also something that I feel like is super underrated in the desk setup scene. And also lastly, some mindset tips that will help you get your setup started if you're looking to kind of revamp everything in your desk setup. First, the core. Now, every great desk setup starts with an awesome desk, and that's kind of the foundation of this entire setup. I've used other desks in the past, but this video is sponsored by Charcoal Inc. It's just a new startup that they just reached out to me not too long ago, and to be honest, it's what inspired this new desk setup. Because when they reached out and told me all the bells and whistles of their new product I have coming up, I was pretty excited to test it out. So I said I agreed, and that's why we're watching this video now. But I'm really glad I went down that path because I changed up a lot of things on my desk that I didn't anticipate changing. So just to go into some of the brief features of the desk, aside from it being able to have the typical sit stand features, like it has a lot of sensors built into the desk itself. It kind of notifies you when you might be hitting a rut or burnout. Now, before I made this video, I was able to hop on a call with Charcoal just to go over the desk, and I found out that a lot of research actually has gone into the creation of this desk. And it's really impressive because Charcoal really tried to make sure that this desk was working with the person using it and maximizing the productivity aside from just being a very good sit stand desk. Everything from the unboxing experience all the way to setup was very seamless. When I unboxed it, it literally took less than 10 minutes to set up the desk. Now, the best way to explain what the tabletop feels like without you actually being here is if you've ever used an Apple Magic trackpad, that kind of matte kind of finish that you feel on the trackpad is exactly how this desk feels. So it's very satisfying to kind of put your hands on or just use and interact with on a regular basis. It has a very like translucent look to it, which is what illuminates the light, the notification light. And also it kind of gives a very nice sheen when light hits it. You know, it's not distracting. It doesn't have any weird reflections, very flat finish that feels very premium. And I love that about the white desk because there's so many white desks out there, but this one definitely stands out in my books. Now, through their app, you're able to kind of learn about the science behind the desk and also kind of read some of your patterns. The app itself is a little bit, in the process of being built. As I said, it's a newer company, but for me personally, the fact that they're even thinking about connecting their desk to an app that can kind of give you some sort of data on your productivity and your patterns and your habits is just great. And honestly, it's very awesome to see companies like this moving forward and trying to innovate on things to maximize productivity for people, especially with how many people are working from home now. Are there other sit-stand desks that are cheaper? 100%. Do you need this one in particular if you're trying to get into a standing and sitting position? Definitely not. But if you're like me and you just appreciate well-designed products and you have, the privilege to be able to spend a little bit more money, I would highly recommend checking this desk out. Next is the tech. At the base of this setup, I have the Apple Mac Studio, and the specs on it is the M1 Max chip with the 32 gigs of RAM and 2 terabytes of SSD storage. Just a great computer. We won't make this video like a review about it, but I really love how powerful it is and it kind of checks all the boxes for me. Now for monitors, I'm using 2 Apple Studio displays connected to the Mac Studio. The first monitor is kind of in a horizontal configuration with the height adjustable stand that I got from Apple. And the second one is in a vertical orientation with a monitor arm that I got off Amazon. It's by Ergotron. So the monitor just came with no stand, no height adjustable thing. It's just a VESA mount that I put onto the monitor arm. To be totally honest with you, the studio displays are not really worth it for the price, and I purely got it from an aesthetic standpoint. I know I'm a sucker for getting bought into Apple's marketing, but I personally just don't really care about some of the other features that cheaper monitors have. If you're going for like a functional feature-packed monitor, there's so many other monitors out there that will give you more bang for your buck. Personally, I just love the build and the aesthetic of the studio display. Also just like the monitor itself, and the screen is really bright, it's really clear, it's really accurate, and for color grading, for videos, and also editing photos, just an enjoyable experience for me personally. I also love how the webcam is already built into the monitor. It even has speakers in the monitors. While I don't use them, they're actually pretty solid quality for speakers that are coming out of a computer display. But the webcam is built into the display, which is nice because I'm just not a huge fan of having webcams that are externally mounted on the monitor. Just kind of ruins the whole aesthetic for me. I know it's so extra, but personally, I just really appreciate the design of these displays to go along with the Mac Studio. Now for keyboard, I'm rocking the Logitech MX Mechanical Mini for Mac. I'm not really huge on mechanical keyboards. I know that it's kind of a whole niche, but I'm not like an expert in it. I just personally like how it feels, and I felt like not knowing too much about mechanical keyboards, the Logitech was just like a good starter one. And I've personally really enjoyed it. It's small, it's compact. I love how it's designed. It's really easy to switch between my MacBook if I take it on the go, and also my Mac Studio at home. And the color just matches the setup really nicely. It does, like the angle for my wrist is a little bit weird. I feel like I need some sort of wrist rest, but overall, really solid keyboard, and it functions well. Speaking of wrist, for my mouse though, I'm using this Delta Hub wrist rest. You know, at first I thought it wasn't really doing that much, but I didn't have it one time when I was traveling, and I did miss it. Like, it just gives a subtle lift to your wrist to make sure that you don't kind of hurt your wrist over the long term. So, you know, it's not like a huge impact, but definitely helps a little bit of comfort when you're using your mouse. To go along with the keyboard, I'm using the Logitech MX Master 3S mouse. Pretty much this mouse has lived with me for the last couple years. I've had older versions of it, but this mouse is kind of a staple for me, and I probably won't be changing it anytime soon. And on the left side, I also use an Apple Magic trackpad, and I kind of use them all together, all three of these, the keyboard, mouse, and the trackpad. The trackpad I use when I'm editing videos or I'm editing photos, and I use it to zoom in and out of the timeline or crop photos. And having the left side for like kind of swiping and zooming is really nice, and the right side is just for, you know, getting to different parts of my screen. For external storage, I try not to have everything on my actual desktop or my Mac Studio. I try to keep it pretty empty. I usually put my working project or my current projects that I'm working on, like 2 or 3, on the actual desktop, so my Mac Studio, and everything else is kind of backed up on this G Drive by G Technology. Now this G Technology hard drive is not the fastest, so I wouldn't really recommend getting it if you're trying to edit off of something and it's, you know, not super fast. It's also kind of loud, it kind of kicks on, but I've just used G Technology drives for a couple years now, and I usually get a new one for every year. This one has 20 terabytes, so it's probably gonna run through the rest of the year, put it in there, and then I'll swap it out next year. As far as audio goes, I'm rocking the Audio Engine A2 Plus, also speakers that I've had for a while now. So having actual, you know, monitors on these stands helps with some of the sound, because when I'm editing, it's nice to be able to have accurate sound, or if I'm just listening to music, I love having, you know, speakers that bump. Next, organization. I think organization is such a crucial part of a functional desk setup. Now, if you can have the most nice looking desk setup, but if it's not organized and you feel like it's cluttered, I feel like it just will affect your productivity. At least it does for me. At the core of everything for me, I'm using the Gather set by UGMonk. Now the Gather set is essentially this modular kind of ecosystem of products that UGMonk launched that helps you stay organized on your desk and in your workspace. Now the biggest piece that you're gonna see on the desk is the monitor stand, which I'm using without a monitor on top, but it is below the monitor. I didn't put my Apple Studio display on top of the monitor stand because it just makes it a little too tall. Personally, I love the aesthetic of having it tucked in kind of below the monitor stand. And yeah, it just looks clean, has a little tray that I usually put my MacBook 14-inch into. It fits perfectly in this little slot. And overall, just really clean aesthetic when paired with the studio displays. Now also by UGMonk, I also have their organization kind of modular system, which consists of the base plate and also some trays, and they have one called a zigzag tray, which I use my task knife and pen to put on, and some really nice little trays to put sticky notes, or I use mine for like just everyday items in one of them with the cap, and then like a microfiber cloth to like wipe down stuff in the other one. What I love about this recent launch from UGMonk is that they kind of built it all on this modular but also magnetic system. So all the trays and accessories are magnetic that go to the monitor stand, that go to the base plates. Like, it's just modular. You can configure it in any fashion that you want and make it unique to yourself, or just how you stay productive. You can move things around. Now every desk setup needs a fire desk mat, and I've been using this Orbitkey desk mat. I've used Orbitkey desk mats for basically the last 3 years, and I loved it ever since they launched the first first one, but this is actually their slim one. So it's a little bit smaller from my previous desk setup, but it's nice because it fits perfectly in the kind of configuration I have it with some of the UGG accessories. But it has all the same features as the previous desk mat. So it has really nice quality, has the flap to be able to put papers in between, has like the little pencil cutout so you can put pens and whatnot as a tray almost. Also cable management kind of organizer if you're looking to clamp your cables to the desk mat itself. Overall, really fire quality desk mat that I would highly recommend. And unintentionally, I didn't even realize it, but the felt that they're using, that Orbitkey is using for the desk mat, is the same kind of felt material that UGG used for their zigzag tray, which was just a nice coincidence, but overall helping the cohesiveness of the look. Now, obviously, a really big part of organizing your desk is going to be the cables. Now, the cable management is huge. Cable management is everything. If you have like a fire desk setup, but you look down below and all the cables are there, it's really ugly, honestly. If you guys are new to the channel, I actually made a cable management video like a couple years back that honestly still people will find value out of, and they say they do it and it looks great. I used it on my last desk setup and I would still use it if this one didn't already come with a wire management solution. But if you're interested, I'll link it up here. If you have like a cable mess, maybe you'll find some value in that video. But for this desk by Charcoal in particular, it actually came with this like cable cover slash tray, really well designed, really simple. So like when I was building my desk, I had all the cables just drop down, and essentially I just throw the cables into this tray and then lock it in place. Now for power, when it comes to the cables, to make it a little bit more clean and make sure nothing is falling down, I took a surge protector or power surge protector with outlets and double-sided sticky tape it to the bottom of the charcoal desk, and then all the power that is on top of my desk is plugged into the surge protector. That way, the only cable that's actually coming down and hitting the floor and going into the wall is the surge protector. So it's really nice because the desk, the speakers, the studio displays, the computer, like everything is plugged into the extension surge protector on the bottom, which gives it this really clean aesthetic with only one cable coming down and going into the wall. Next, lighting. I think lighting is such an underrated part of a desk setup. A lot of times people just put a lamp or some sort of monitor light, but honestly having lighting dialed in was one of my biggest things when changing my setup, because I actually didn't realize how much it was affecting me when I was working on my last setup when I didn't have the lighting dialed. I was always trying to find the right configuration, and I finally feel like I've stumbled upon a setup that really works for me. So as far as lighting goes, if you have a window in your desk setup, it's gonna be the best source of light. I think having natural light or a window in your room or on the side of you on the left or right is just really nice for productivity. Just gives you some of that sunlight that comes in, the natural light helps, feeling better instead of being like a dark little cave or a room. I know some people are into that like aesthetic and they love being like moody in their setup. Personally, I love when my light is just coming in or sunlight slashing into the room. It really helps me. It makes me feel better about being at my desk. But on those days where it's cloudy and gloomy and there's not enough, natural light, or if it's dark outside or it's nighttime, I typically use this big key light that I put into the corner of the desk setup. It was there in my other setups previously as well, but the way it's placed, it just worked out for this new configuration too. And essentially it's an aperture 120D mounted into the ceiling with a big light dome. This kind of creates this big soft light source that feels like natural light when it's not sunny outside or if it's dark. One big thing about lighting is you don't need super expensive lights, but you do need a big source of light. Having a big source of light will make you feel better than a very concentrated source of light like a lamp or some sort of spotlight. It helps to have it larger. Or third is just ambient lighting. Ambient lighting is kind of the cherry on top in my opinion. If you can add this element into your desk setup, it will make you feel better too. For me personally, I've used these Philips Hue play bars that I've mounted to the back of my studio displays. Philips Hue play bars are freaking expensive, I'm not gonna lie. It's so like hit or miss for me because I know that there's cheaper LED options out there on Amazon, but for me, I just went to Best Buy, picked these up. I was maybe gonna return them. I just wanna see what the hype was about. And they are really great. And I think, you can find cheaper LED lights out there, but what you're paying for with Philips Hue is just like the reliability and their app. Their app is really nice and you're able to change all the colors and set scenes and whatnot. And it's just reliable. I'm sure the other ones are reliable too, but I just had a peace of mind with getting these Philips Hue play bars because I don't know if I'm ever going to get other Philips Hue accessories for my room, like bulbs or light strips or whatnot. So, you know, being able to have this hook up reliably and knowing that in the future, I can grow with it and add more Philips Hue lights really helped out. Now, this isn't sponsored by them, but this is just my honest feedback on the lights itself. For some reason, this ambient light when I'm working just really helps kind of, you know, separate the monitor from the wall, and it gives it a nice aesthetic that makes me feel cozy because I can change the light settings to kind of work mode, which is a bright white, or change it to something, you know, more tungsten or orange to kind of wind down if I'm working in the evening. So being able to set all those different scenes is really nice. One huge gripe that I have about the Philips Hue just overall ecosystem though, is that you need to buy all these accessories to work with the light itself. So in order to use these play bar lights, I had to get the Hue bridge if I wanted to use the app properly. So I have to get this bridge that connects to like an Ethernet, which is a little bit of a hassle. And then also the remote control to adjust the lights with the controller also was a separate purchase. So honestly, just really expensive for what it is, but nonetheless, it all works really well and hooks up seamlessly. Now I want to share some mindset tips with you if you're looking to upgrade your setup. Now trust me, I've been on the other end of these videos. I used to watch so many desk setups when I didn't have any of this stuff. I had a crappy desk, crappy monitor, everything was bad. Because if you're looking to optimize your setup, you might get overwhelmed by all the like kind of crazy setups you see online. So let me share with you some free just mindset tips when it comes to approaching a new desk setup. So the first one that I think is super important is you need to figure out the placement in your room. So for me, if there's a window or some sort of natural light source, definitely play off that, right? Have your desk off the window or have it in front of the window. My previous setup, I had my desk right, you know, in front of the window. So make sure you play off what you have, which is natural light, because it will make a huge difference in your productivity. At least it has for me. Next, to have a really clean setup, you need to figure out what your color schemes and textures are. So for me, you know, I try not to overcomplicate it. I try not to have more than like 2 to 3 colors in a desk setup. Now this is a personal preference. If you love colors and you love like a bright setup that has tons of different, you know, colors and it works for you, then go for it. But for me, I love, you guys know, I love like monochromatic neutral feels. So I try not to exceed like 2 to 3 colors in a setup. As you can see, I have white, black, and basically gray or silver. Now, you also need to think about the textures, right? So every peripheral accessory has these specific textures. For me, I have walnut wood and then metal, aluminum, metal, whatever you want to call it. And a cohesive color scheme doesn't mean you have to go buy all the most expensive things. You can find cheaper products that fits your color scheme. And my last tip that I think is the most important one, be okay with taking your time. I feel like there's a new desk setup video coming out every week. I personally love them. Like all my friends on YouTube who make these setup videos, I honestly geek out about them all the time, and I'm really interested in seeing what other people are adding to their setups. I just find it interesting. But I can see how if you're not in that position, or you just don't have the access to all the tools or even the funds to be able to build your dream setup, just know that it's okay to like take your time. You don't have to make everything happen in a week or in a month even. Sometimes it can take months to just kind of add carefully all the pieces that you want for your dream setup. For me personally, the way I buy products is, you know, instead of getting the cheaper thing, I'd rather just wait longer, save up my money, and buy the thing that I actually want. Because I've realized that when I did cheap out and buy the thing that I didn't want initially as much, it just kind of fulfilled that need at that time. I would end up buying down the line thing I wanted anyway, and then I would have spent more money in the long run. So I've always just waited, you know, be patient with your setup. Like the studio displays are a good example. When those first launched, I wanted to get them, but I didn't want to spend that much money on them. I didn't have the money at the time to just drop on monitors like that. But with this setup, I waited, I was able to afford them and add them to the setup. So I think it's just really important to understand taking your time is not a bad thing. It's okay if it takes a year, because think about how much time you're actually spending at your desk setup. You walk into it every day, you're working there day and night, and honestly, it's just better to feel good about you carefully crafting your workspace instead of just, you know, making substitutes. So this is all personal preference, but these are some free concepts that I want to leave with you if you're looking to upgrade your desk setup. Thank you so much for watching this video. I love making this kind of stuff. So if you like watching this kind of stuff, hit that subscribe button, like the video, comment down below if you have any questions. I try to get back to all the comments, and thank you so much for just being here and watching this video. And if you're subscribed, you're awesome. And if you're not, you're still awesome. But if you can subscribe, that'd be awesome. I just said awesome like 5,000 times. Anyway, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.